Hi. I have a written journal ready. I don't know if I'm going to do that or speak live or both here. Um, it's been a really intense time. And not just for me. I've been hearing any number of people speak about how intense things were for them Sunday. And then I heard that there was an earthquake somewhere in the world. Now, I haven't done the research on that yet. I mostly, I might be visible in 3D, but I mostly walk in the dimension above it and hardly touch bases here. But I like it that way. It's neither good nor bad. I'm not very good at tending to the things of 3D, and so that's something I'm learning and working with as I have set my intent to turn inward and fall in love with the self. It helps bring you down, even though this is a difficult dimension right now for light beings like you and me. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's mostly the human perspective, and we're not human. We're divine. We're working with a human form right now, but it's not us. It's not who we are. And so once we turn inward and begin self-observing, and I think Advaita has a lot of this. I don't know. I haven't gone out and studied something like that. It's just that some of the people that I really like to listen to seem to come from that journey, whatever we call it. Watching our thoughts is really good, and it's really productive, and it's really amazing, and it's like through the looking glass. We are all together coming into a new world. And those of us that are on the front lines are very eager for this. We're very eager to bring in the fullness of the light as much as can be brought into and anchored here in 3D. We're game for it. That's what we want. No more restrictions, no more limits. We're very used to being totally unlimited beings who get what we want with a thought. It's instantaneous. And so this is a neat trip. Things don't quite work like that here. And mostly that's good because, now it's kind of funny, it's a little shocking, but it works. Nancy Dennison calls it the human animal. The bodies that we incarnate are an animal, she says, native to the earth. I don't know. But it's one perspective, and very often there's something to gain from every perspective. So it's fun playing around with it. And so in a lot of cases, we can look at our motivations, at our thoughts, quietly just observing, and we can begin to distinguish what are the light beings' thoughts and what are those of the human. And that's interesting. I don't have any great wisdom about how to handle that. Obviously, we want the most beautiful blend and balance possible. I don't believe in suppressing the light being, which is the way society has been run for a long time, nor do I believe in repressing the human, which a lot of religions, I think, tend to do. Thou shalt and thou shalt not, and all that kind of a thing. And life isn't meant to be miserable that way. And so we both have something to give one another, the human and the light being. And yes, I know everything's totally one, okay? That's always the other side of the coin whenever I talk, is the ultimate oneness that we are, that everything is. It's not even behind the scenes. I mean, everything that is source, is one. And we play these games pretending that we're separate for a time. And, okay. I wanted to share with you. I don't do much reading anymore. I just lost interest in it. Actually, I went through about 10 years where I literally couldn't pick up a book. I went from reading hundreds of books, thousands, to nothing. I couldn't even read a dust jacket without being almost sick, uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And I didn't know why. I didn't understand it at all, but I didn't care. I had already given up relying on mind, and I was going by the feel of things, and I trusted it, and I'm so glad that I did. You know, every time I do that, it turns out right for me. And I'm shedding fear every step of the way. More and more fear just falls off until, I mean, the human has a certain amount of built-in fear. It's just in the nature of the body and maybe of the dimension. And so there's a certain reasonableness to getting out of the way of traffic, that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fears that are ginned up, mostly mentally, emotionally. Okay. I'm just going to read this. This is from 6/12, and I guess that's maybe yesterday. I don't know. I don't pay that too much attention. And the Mayan day was 7 Rabbit or star. And I'd suggest you might enjoy watching on the days with higher numbers and the days with lower numbers, and you can see the sense of when things are just beginning and new and forging ahead and unknown. And then when you get on towards the 10, 11, 12, 13, you see things concluding and understandings being birthed. The Mayans really have something there in their calendars. All right, here goes. We're human beings, not human doings. Can we please let that sink in? Are you in heart? It's not only the best place. Excuse me, I've got to make this bigger. Eyes are funny things. Sometimes my vision is perfect. I don't know what makes it so variable. But anyway, let's see if I can get back to where I was. I'll use the mouse, how's that? Okay. Heart is not only the best place from which to view these journals for the fullest experience, it's the best place to be and to live. That's my desire, to so totally live from my center as to make this whole life one huge meditation, always consciously connected to Source. As Sourcebeams, what else can we be? We simply are that. But do we accept it? Mostly not. If you're in mind, you might say, how can I? It's just too much. That's too crazy. Me being God? But your perspective from heart will be totally different. Heart knows no limits, no boundaries, and no fears. Heart also knows what you are, even if you don't yet. We aren't here to learn new things, but to remember and reconnect with old knowledge, only this time reinforced by our own personal experience. We bring our personal experience of life up to Source, while bringing all we can of Source down into our now. What a delight, what a beautiful exchange, or a flow. I recently bought all of Nancy Dennison's books, and I ran across a short quote today I just have to share with you. It's so beautiful, so be in heart and try this one on. Go really deep. She says, relax and trust yourself. Accept that you may not know while in the body just what you are trying to accomplish here. Then all you have to do is open the gift of the unknown before you and enter into the joy of being human. You know, I'm like a balloon. It makes me want to float away. I will use my will and my intent and keep myself here so I can do this. Sometimes you can only say, wow. Those were the first lines I read today, and I almost couldn't continue reading. I was so bowled over by the simplicity of their wisdom and the wisdom of their simplicity. It took some sitting and just being with that before I could read anymore. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. Yet, we rail and gripe, we kick, fuss, and moan about things which, for the most part, we can't change. Sometimes we really stir up a fuss, or we may drop into a month-long depression or funk of some kind. As long as we take the first-person view of things, we'll be limited this way. That means identifying with the I, with 3D. Yet, when we step back, we empower ourselves tremendously. Then we can take her advice and, quote unquote, open the gift of the unknown before you and enter into the joy of being human. By simply taking on a more flexible perspective on life, on everything, we're in process of taking our power back. Simply knowing that there are other and valid ways to look at things, that's a really great start. It's those who are so convinced of the rightness of their particular view that it's best to stay away from. Let them stew in it. They'll be ready soon enough, likely when they've had enough pain. It's not our job to solve the world's or our neighbor or even our child's problems, my friends. That's not what we signed on for, and nor is it doable anyway. By reaching out into the world to make changes, we do no more than to medicate the pimple by applying the cream to the mirror instead of our face. We've got it all backwards. We have to go within. Nancy made a great choice when titling her series of books the Backwards series. And this one, I haven't started to read yet, but it's Backwards Beliefs, Revealing Eternal Truths Hidden in Religions. That one ought to be a lot of fun. This is really powerful. I think it's her second one. It's called The Backwards Guidebook, a companion to Backwards, Returning to Our Source for Answers. Now, I can't hold that one up for you because I got it as a Kindle. And by the way, for those of you who are once like I was and thought you had to have one of those Kindle machines to use the app, you can use it on your computer. So, that's really neat. And you save some money on the books, and it's handy. I like it because you can magnify the type if you need to, on a bad day for your eyes. All right, anyway. In each one of her books, she highlights the backwardness of life in 3D. Now, I don't recommend her work for those very much attached to a particular religion. You'll likely find it too challenging and not enjoyable enough. It takes an exceptionally open mind to explore religion with Nancy. This also reminds me of something Neil Donald Walsh said in an interview with Eckhart Tolle. And I've put in a link for you here. It was so beautifully done. And you may want to experience it yourself. Anyway, Since he is well known for his book series, Conversations with God, and I'm sure you all know about Eckhart and the Power of Now, and I forget his new one, something about the new earth. Anyway, Neil was describing a prior interview he'd had on TV. And he said in the last 30 seconds, the interviewer asked him if he could sum up in a few sentences what message God would like to give to man now. Imagine, you've got 30 seconds. What does God have to say to the world, Neil? His response was so beautiful and unexpected. In spite of being put in such a spot and with so few seconds to come up with an answer to something so big, here's what he said, on behalf of God, of course. "You've got me all wrong." I love it. I love it. You've got me all wrong. From what I've seen of Nancy Dennison's work, I'm pretty sure she'd agree. Yet, how many of us have sufficient openness and humility to just consider this? Could we too have God all wrong? I think many, even among the light beings incarnate here, will agree. We do. We're too much in mind with things, including our religious and spiritual ideas. It's time to drop down into heart and experience Source directly for ourselves. Now, of course, this is not something any religion I'm aware of tells us we can do, but so what? We can. The biggest need, as I see it right now, is for simple acceptance, for allowing life, to be just what it is, no more resistance. Nancy's words deserve repeating here. This is a big sentence. Accept that you may not know, while in the body, just what you are trying to accomplish here. If we could just accept that one thing, it's huge. Can we allow life to be and just quit fighting it, quit demanding the answers to everything? Somehow, for us humans, life is never quite good enough. We're always off chasing the latest rainbow or fad or desire. Not many of us spend any time at all with the now, unadorned. If we let it bore us, I can guarantee my diagnosis on that, we're in mind. Only mind can be bored. It's not possible in heart. Drop down into heart for a very different experience. Try living there for a change, living from there. Get out of that permanent spot, that comfort zone in left brain. Leave that one vacant for a while. It will do fine without you. Try it, you'll see. Oh, the peace that can be gained with simple acceptance of life. Now, mind cannot do this. So don't try to force your mind into it. Let that go. It's truly phenomenal. Yet, we're so programmed and stressed all the time that we can't seem to settle down and just be. Instead, we're all human doings most of the time. And when we live life like that, we're missing the point. We're not here to be human doings. So why won't we cease? And a lot of people don't find this out until their life review at an NDE. And you hear them say, "Oh my God, I wasted my life. I missed the whole point." Well, why won't you cease? Why won't you just let go and allow? What is stopping you? That would be a good form of meditation or pondering to go in for. What is the heart of my resistance to life? There's a great question for all of us. We might ask it before laying down to sleep. And maybe we'll even bring something back with us in the morning. Hey, anything's possible. Remember that one. In Nancy's talks that she's uploaded to YouTube, and there are quite a few, she shares that our mission or purpose in life is to gain experience for Source. Now, she goes much deeper into it in her books, but it's still very simple like that. We're extensions of Source, and Source is doing that. I'm quite glad to find, though, that in her backwards, returning to our source for answers, she does go a bit deeper. I find us, she and I, in complete and total agreement on what she calls the path to heaven. To me, it's just how to live while we're here. That's how I've looked at it. And that, this is going to be her quote, that is to consciously, quote unquote, live our true nature as extensions of source energy. Yes, that sums it up. Startled me there. I live out in the woods and I'm not used to anybody driving by, but I guess once a month they do come and read the meter. Okay. To be consciously God or Source, where you are in all situations and challenges. Now, we are that anyway. The operative word is to consciously be that. So we'll just naturally shine with unconditional love, not with it, as it. We'll just be that. There is simply no judgment in heart or in Source, so being non-judgmental is very much an aspect of this love. Whole books could be written about each of these ideas. I'm getting drunk on them, packed in there so tightly as they are, such heavenly ideas, such great empowerment. And it's all ours for the taking. Life is actually designed to empower us in these ways. It's all up to us. Life won't do it for us, but will support what we do. Maybe I should stop now, since I'm getting ready to add something here that may just make it too much. Still, I'm going, so let's see what happens. This is an idea that came clear for me just today. Be in heart. You know how sometimes you carry certain ideas or thoughts around with you, maybe for years, kind of gnawing on them, as Cliff High likes to say? Most of us have wondered that way about our purpose in life, off and on. Well, I've been watching a lot of things transitioning in my life, and like I said, something clicked for me today, and it was beautiful. For those who have pondered what unconditional love is, you'll understand this best. You know that beautiful, awesome, even inexpressible love that people come back from their NDEs telling us about. For almost everyone, this was their first encounter with truly total and unconditional love. It leaves them speechless. I'll link you to the NDE playlist I've got where you can check this out and bask in it for yourself. Anyway, here's what came to me, and it's very simple, really. It's that I'm starting to feel this for beings and for people right here while in form. That may be why the tears are flowing so easily these days. I don't know. It was a really big thought when it came. I wasn't used to looking at myself like that. We may think about Source a lot, but we really don't often take on Source attributes and own them, or even consider that we could. This is part and parcel of the lie of separation we were fed and we bought into, that we are separate from each other and from our source. And since we knew source was the perfect one in this equation, if we were separate, then we'd put all the perfection on source. Somehow, along the way, we wound up becoming these miserable sinners who needed to be saved. Not only couldn't we live right, we couldn't even fix the problem for ourselves. Now here's the thing. When you see something like this coming into manifestation in yourself, the ability to see a source attribute right where you are, then it means you've largely worked your way through the undoing of all the wrong programming that went into convincing you that you were this terrible sinner. And that's a big deal. Life has laid that programming on thickly. Truly, the only thing holding us back is our unexamined beliefs. We should celebrate our victories, my friends, large and small. Notice when you've made a breakthrough. Don't just gloss over it. Take time out. Be glad. Simply be happy. Rejoice. Gratitude like this adds a multiplying factor just by its nature. What we're grateful for, we generally receive more of somehow. Of course, we don't celebrate just to ask for more. That's nonsense. It's just something that heart cannot help. It's sourced in the beauty of the experience itself. And it's also part of seeing with new eyes, eyes of heart. Many and great are the shifts that must be made to clear us out from under the burden represented by our programming. Not only is it huge in this life, consider that you likely have any number of lives just since Jesus walked the earth. So you've got all of them, the programming from each one, adding to the overall burden, subconsciously, of course, or unconsciously. The burden that keeps saying that you're just not good enough. In most of us, that goes very deep. But it's a terrible lie, one that was never true from the start. Yet we've worked and lived, ate and slept under this burden for the whole of our earthly life. We've gotten adjusted to the weight of it, like a horse in the traces. Maybe that's why you feel a bit giddy and lightheaded when a big piece of it slips away, never to return. We can free ourselves, my friends. It takes earnestness and dedication, and then some discernment in what pathway to follow, but we can do it and get it done in this one life. We do hold the key to the chains and shackles with which we're bound, and we're self-bound at that. No one is stopping us from going quite free. Now, as I say this, I feel some resistance out there. I want you to remember your conscious mind is 10% of the whole. What you know consciously is just the smallest bit of the totality of you. Many are the times we've wished that it was easier or faster or would just come right away. Who knows why it's the way it is, requiring our steady determination? I don't. Still, I take comfort from Nancy's words I shared in the beginning of the journal, so I'll repeat them. Relax and trust yourself. Accept that you may not know while in the body just what it is you're trying to accomplish here. Then all you have to do is open the gift of the unknown before you and enter into the joy of being human. Hear, hear.